I'm Sierra, 34 years old, and I've been married to Marcus for 8 years. What started as a fairy tale romance has slowly transformed into something I barely recognize. This 4th of July at his parents' annual family barbecue in Connecticut, I thought I knew what to expect. Marcus had been getting crueler with his humor lately, especially in front of his family, but nothing could have prepared me for the humiliation that was coming. Before I share what happened that day, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever felt invisible in your own marriage. Now, let me tell you how one afternoon changed everything. I met Marcus at our mutual friend Jennifer's wedding 6 years ago. He was everything I thought I wanted in a partner: confident, charming, successful. He worked as a real estate agent, then closing deals with the same smooth talking that had swept me off my feet. I was working as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, a job I absolutely loved despite the long hours and emotional toll. Our romance felt like something out of a movie. Marcus would surprise me with weekend trips to the Poconos, send flowers to my work just because it was Tuesday, and text me constantly throughout the day. Little messages that made me smile during difficult shifts. His family seemed so welcoming when I first met them. His mother, Margaret, complimented my dress at that first dinner, and his father, Harold, opened an expensive bottle of wine to celebrate Marcus finding such a wonderful woman. Our wedding was beautiful. 200 guests at a country club in Westchester. Marcus actually cried when I walked down the aisle, and his vows were so heartfelt that even my skeptical father wiped away tears. For the first 2 years, marriage felt like an extension of our courtship. We bought a townhouse in Jersey, adopted a golden retriever named Bailey, and talked about starting a family soon. Then Marcus decided to change careers. He wanted to move into investment banking, said real estate wasn't challenging enough anymore. The transition meant long hours of study for his licenses, expensive courses, and a significant pay cut initially. I supported him completely, picking up extra shifts at the hospital, working weekends, even taking on private duty nursing occasionally. I believed in him and us, in our future together. When he finally landed a position at a prominent firm in Manhattan, I was so proud. We celebrated with champagne and takeout from our favorite Italian place, laughing about how we'd survived on ramen and frozen pizzas for months. But success changed Marcus in ways I didn't anticipate. The promotion came 6 months later. Suddenly, he was making more money than both of us combined had been making before. And with that financial success came a shift in how he saw me, saw us. The comments started small: a joke about my cooking when his colleague mentioned his wife's culinary skills, a remark about my appearance when we attended a company party, where, according to Marcus, all the other wives looked like they stepped out of fashion magazines. I tried to adapt. Signed up for a gym membership I couldn't really afford for my own salary. Took cooking classes on my days off even though I was exhausted from 12-hour shifts at the hospital. Bought new clothes that Marcus approved of, retiring my comfortable scrubs and sweaters for fitted dresses and heels that hurt my feet. His family started treating me differently too. Margaret would make subtle comments about how Catherine, my brother-in-law James's wife, managed to maintain her law career while keeping an immaculate home. Lauren, Marcus's sister, would casually mention her designer purchases and look pointedly at my Target dress. Even Harold, who'd been so warm initially, now barely acknowledged me at gatherings. The past 6 months had been particularly difficult. Marcus had developed this habit of making me the punchline of his jokes, especially in public. At his company holiday party, he told everyone how I'd mixed up salt and sugar in a batch of cookies, laughing about how he had to throw them all out. He didn't mention I'd been up for 36 hours straight after a crisis at the pediatric ICU. At the last family gathering Easter dinner, he'd criticized my career choice in front of everyone. Said nursing was noble but not exactly intellectually stimulating, wondered aloud why I hadn't considered law school or business school like the other wives in the family. When I quietly mentioned that I'd graduated summa cum laude from Penn's nursing program, he laughed and said academic achievement and real-world success were different things. I'd started pulling away from my own friends without realizing it. Too embarrassed to tell them how Marcus treated me, too tired from trying to be perfect to maintain relationships. My college roommate Ashley had called 3 times last month, but I hadn't called back. What would I tell her? That the confident, independent woman she knew had somehow become someone who spent an hour each morning trying to choose an outfit her husband wouldn't criticize. the morning of the 4th of July barbecue. I woke at 5 to start preparing my contribution to the family meal. My potato salad was actually the one thing Marcus's family consistently complimented. 3 pounds of potatoes perfectly boiled and seasoned mixed with a dressing recipe my grandmother had passed down. I moved quietly in the kitchen, careful not to wake Marcus, but the gentle clink of bowls was enough. He stormed downstairs and his boxer's hair disheveled face twisted in annoyance. "Do you have to make so much noise? It's a holiday, Sierra. Some of us want to sleep in." I apologized even though I'd been barely making any sound. He grabbed a glass of water and looked at my preparation. "Don't make too much. You know Mom always over-prepares, and we end up throwing half of it away." After he went back to bed, I continued cooking, then spent 45 minutes choosing an outfit. The red sundress was too attention-seeking according to Marcus's previous comments. The blue one made me look heavy, he'd said. The white one was trying too hard. I settled on a simple yellow dress with small flowers, modest and cheerful. When Marcus saw it later, he sighed. "You look like a kindergarten teacher. Couldn't you have worn something more sophisticated?" The drive to Connecticut took 2 hours. Marcus spent most of it on the phone with James, discussing some investment opportunity, occasionally glancing at me with irritation when I adjusted the air conditioning or shifted in my seat. His parents' estate in Greenwich always intimidated me. 6 bedrooms, a pool house, tennis court. And today, a massive tent set up on the lawn for the approximately 40 family members who'd be attending. Margaret greeted us at the door with air kisses, her eyes scanning my outfit with barely concealed disappointment. "Sierra, dear, how nice. Yellow is so cheerful, isn't it? Very appropriate for a casual gathering." The emphasis on casual felt pointed, especially when Catherine appeared behind her in an elegant navy shift dress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "Sierra." Catherine's greeting was warmer, though I could never tell if her friendliness was genuine or just good manners. "You look lovely. Is that potato salad? You know everyone raves about it." We moved through the house to the backyard where the tent was already filling with relatives. I recognized most of them from 8 years of these gatherings. There was Cousin Patricia with her 3 kids running around Uncle Robert holding court at the bar, and Aunt Linda gossiping with Margaret's sister Carol. Marcus immediately gravitated toward James and a group of male cousins, leaving me to navigate the social waters alone. I helped Margaret in the kitchen for a while, enduring her subtle criticisms disguised as helpful suggestions. "You know, dear, if you add the mayonnaise while the potatoes are still warm, it absorbs better. Though I suppose your way works too." She mentioned Catherine's recent promotion twice, and Lauren's husband David's new surgical fellowship 3 times. When I finally escaped to the tent, I tried connecting with the other wives. James's wife Catherine was discussing a case she'd just won something about corporate liability that went over my head. Lauren was showing off photos from their recent trip to Santorini. Patricia's sister-in-law was talking about her children's admission to some exclusive private school. "How's the hospital, Sierra?" Catherine asked kindly, making space for me in their circle. Before I could answer, Marcus's laugh boomed from across the tent. He was gesturing animatedly, clearly, telling a story that had his brothers in stitches. I heard my name and felt my stomach drop. "So Sierra decides she's going to make this fancy dinner," he was saying. "Watches some cooking show and thinks she's Julia Child suddenly. Spent $80 on ingredients. The kitchen looked like a bomb went off, and the result, even Bailey wouldn't eat it." The men roared with laughter. That wasn't true. I'd made a complex French dish successfully, but Marcus had been in a bad mood about work and declared it too rich after one bite. Bailey had actually loved the leftovers. I noticed someone I didn't recognize standing slightly apart from the group. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of quiet presence that suggested military background. Margaret noticed me looking. "Oh, that's Daniel. Harold's nephew from his brother's side. Just moved back from San Diego. Going through a divorce, poor thing. He's a social worker now, can you imagine? All that military training and he works with troubled youth." The way she said it, like social work was something shameful, made me instinctively sympathize with this Daniel. We made brief eye contact, and he nodded politely before turning back to observe the gathering. As the afternoon progressed, Marcus's drinking increased steadily. Beer became bourbon, his voice growing louder, his stories more elaborate. The jokes at my expense multiplied. How I'd gotten lost driving to a place I'd been dozens of times. How I'd cried at a commercial about dogs. How I still hadn't figured out how to use the smart TV system he'd installed 6 months ago. Each story was told with such charm, such theatrical flair, that everyone laughed. But I could feel Daniel watching, not laughing, his expression growing increasingly concerned. When our eyes met again, there was something in his gaze that looked like recognition, like he understood what was really happening here. The sun beat down mercilessly despite the tent, and I could feel sweat gathering at the base of my neck. My yellow dress felt childish and wrong among all these sophisticated people. The potato salad I'd woken up early to make sat untouched on the buffet table, while everyone enjoyed Margaret's catered spreads. Marcus called out to me, "Sierra, honey, come here. Tell James about that time at the hospital when you mixed up the patient's charts." That had never happened. I'd never made a medical error in my entire career. But I walked over anyway, my smile feeling like plastic on my face, ready to be the good sport, the butt of the joke, anything to keep the peace, and get through this day. The tension in my shoulders was building into a headache. 3 more hours, I told myself. 3 more hours and we could go home. I just had to survive 3 more hours. The main gathering shifted to the pool area as the sun began its descent, casting golden light across the meticulously maintained grounds. Someone had set up speakers and classic rock drifted across the lawn. The crowd had grown to about 40 people, various branches of the family tree I'd never quite learned to navigate. Marcus positioned himself at the center of a large group, his bourbon glass seemingly never empty. His voice carried across the entire space as he launched into what he clearly considered his best material. "You all remember our honeymoon to Italy, right?" he began, and my blood ran cold. 5-star resort in Tuscany, beautiful place, cost me a fortune. Second night there, Sierra decides to be adventurous with the seafood. I told her to stick with what she knows, but no, she has to try the local specialty. Everyone was listening now, drawn in by his storyteller's rhythm. I stood frozen near the dessert table holding a plate I didn't remember picking up. 3 in the morning, she's racing to the bathroom. And I mean racing. Doesn't make it. I wake up to her crying on the bathroom floor, the entire room smelling like, well, you can imagine. The hotel had to change our entire suite. The cleaning fee alone was €500. The laughter was explosive. Margaret covered her mouth in delicate horror. James slapped Marcus on the back. Lauren shrieked with amusement. Only Daniel, standing near the pool house, remained stone-faced. The truth was, I'd gotten food poisoning, yes, but I'd made it to the bathroom. I'd been violently ill for 2 days while Marcus complained about missing our winery tours. He'd left me alone in the room, while he went sightseeing, returning only to criticize the mess, despite my fever and dehydration. "But that's my Sierra." Marcus continued, his arms suddenly around my waist, pulling me into the circle. "Can't take her anywhere fancy. Give her a burger and fries, she's happy. Try to culture her a little." He shrugged dramatically. Catherine cleared her throat. "Well, we all have our travel stories." But Marcus wasn't done. He was on a roll now, energized by his audience. "Speaking of culture, you should see her at company events. Last month, the CEO's wife was discussing their art collection, Italian Renaissance pieces. Sierra pipes up about how she loves Renaissance art too. Turns out she meant those mass-produced prints from Target. That wasn't what happened. I'd mentioned enjoying the Metropolitan Museum's Renaissance collection, which I'd visited often during college. The CEO's wife had actually engaged me in a 20-minute conversation about Botticelli. But Marcus had been embarrassed that I knew more about art than he did, so the story had morphed. "Marcus," I said quietly, "that's not—" "Oh, she's modest too," he interrupted. "That's what I love about her. No pretensions. What you see is what you get. Simple taste, simple mind, simple life. Right, honey?" The words hung in the air like a slap. Several people shifted uncomfortably. Daniel took a step forward, then stopped himself. Harold raised his glass. "Well, we can't all marry lawyers and doctors, can we?" He glanced at Catherine and David. "Some of us appreciate the simpler things." "Exactly," Marcus agreed, missing or ignoring the subtle insult to me embedded in his father's words. "Though sometimes I wonder what it would be like." James Catherine contributed, "What to your new house down payment? 40%. Must be nice having a partner who pulls their weight financially." "Nursing is an honorable profession," Catherine said carefully. Oh, absolutely. Marcus nodded enthusiastically. Very honorable. Cleaning bedpans, following doctor's orders, working holidays and weekends. Super honorable. Just not particularly. He paused, pretending to search for the word lucrative or intellectually challenging. But someone has to do it right. My face burned. Several of the younger cousins were recording videos on their phones, probably for their Instagram stories. Tomorrow, my humiliation would be entertainment for strangers on social media. You know what's funny? Marcus continued, now fully performing for his audience. She still wears her college sweatshirt, Penn Nursing, like she peaked at 22. I told her, honey, nobody cares where you went to school once you're past 30. It's what you've done since that matters. Lauren laughed. Oh my God, Marcus, you're terrible. But her tone suggested she found him delightful. I'm just honest, he replied. Like about her weight. Sierra Honey showed them that photo from our wedding. I shook my head, but he'd already pulled out his phone, scrolling to find it. Look at this. 8 years ago. She was stunning. I mean, genuinely stunning. Now, he looked at me with false sympathy. Stress eating is real, folks. Night shifts and vending machines don't mix. I'd gained maybe 5 pounds since our wedding. 5 pounds in 8 years while working exhausting shifts dealing with dying children and managing our household alone because Marcus was too busy to help. But in that moment, I felt enormous grotesque, exactly as he intended. Remember when you used to care about looking good? He asked me directly. Used to do your hair, wear makeup? Now it's ponytails and chapstick. I mean, I get it why bother when you're wearing scrubs all day, but still. A little effort wouldn't kill you. Patricia's husband Mike laughed uncomfortably. Come on, Marcus, ease up. What, I'm just playing. Sierra knows I love her. Don't you, honey? Even if you have let yourself go a little. It's comfortable, I get it. We can't all be 25 forever. Though James, that new associate at your firm, what's she, 26? Now that's someone who takes care of herself. The implication hung heavy. Several people were no longer laughing. Daniel's jaw was visibly clenched. Margaret chose that moment to bring out the buffet dishes. Everyone, please help yourselves. I've had the most wonderful caterer prepare everything. As people moved toward the food, I saw my potato salad untouched in its crystal bowl. Marcus noticed too. Oh, Sierra brought her famous potato salad, he announced loudly. Famous because it's the only thing she can make that's edible. He picked up the serving spoon, then made a show of hesitating. Actually, you know what, I'm going to pass. Had it last week and my stomach was off for days. That was a complete lie. I hadn't made potato salad in months because Marcus had said it was too heavy, too many carbs. He walked over to the trash can near the bar and, maintaining eye contact with me, dumped a serving spoon of my potato salad directly into the garbage. Maybe Catherine can teach you some recipes sometime, honey. Her dinner parties are legendary. Real sophisticated stuff, not just mayo and potatoes. My hands shook. Tears burned behind my eyes. But I wouldn't cry. Not here. Not in front of these people who already thought so little of me. I need to use the restroom. I managed, my voice steady despite everything. As I walked toward the house, I heard Marcus say, sensitive artist type, you know, everything's a drama. Watch, she'll come back all weepy, and I'll have to apologize for breathing wrong. The laughter that followed felt like needles in my back. In the pristine marble bathroom, I gripped the edge of the sink and stared at my reflection. My face was flushed eyes, bright with unshed tears. The yellow dress that had seemed cheerful this morning now looked exactly as Marcus had said, like something a kindergarten teacher would wear. I wanted to leave. Call an Uber, go to Emma's apartment in Brooklyn, never look back. But I'd left my purse in the car, and Marcus had the keys. I was trapped at this estate in Greenwich, surrounded by people who saw me as a joke, married to a man who treated me like a disappointment he was generous enough to tolerate. Taking deep breaths, I tried to compose myself. 1 more hour. Maybe 2. I could survive that. I'd survived 12-hour shifts with grieving parents, held dying children, maintained composure through the worst moments of other people's lives. I could handle my husband's cruelty for a little while longer. When I walked back outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. The gathering had shifted again. People clustered in smaller groups. Marcus was still holding court now with a fresh drink, his face flushed from alcohol and attention. There she is, he called out when he saw me. Feeling better, honey. Everyone, Sierra's been trying to get pregnant for 3 years. The hormones from the IVF make her super emotional. The words hit me like a physical blow. We'd agreed never to discuss our fertility struggles with his family. It was the one thing I'd asked him to keep private, the one boundary I'd established. The 3 failed rounds of IVF had nearly broken me physically, emotionally, financially. And now he was using my deepest pain as party conversation. 3 rounds, $40,000 and nothing, he continued. Doctor said her eggs are fine, everything's fine, sometimes it just doesn't work. Probably for the best, honestly. Can you imagine Sierra trying to juggle a baby with her schedule? She can barely remember to feed Bailey, and he's a dog. The silence that followed was different from before. This wasn't uncomfortable laughter or awkward amusement. This was shock. Even Margaret looked appalled. "Marcus," James said quietly, "that's enough, man." "What? We're all family here. It's not like it's a secret. Everyone's been wondering why we don't have kids yet. I'm just being honest. The clinic suggested donor eggs, younger ones, you know. But Sierra got all offended, like I was saying she was defective or something." That's when Daniel stepped forward. He moved with quiet purpose, positioning himself between Marcus and the rest of the group. He wasn't aggressive, wasn't threatening, just suddenly there, solid and immovable. "Marcus," he said, his voice calm, but carrying an edge of steel. "That's enough." Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. "Danny boy, haven't heard from you all day. Well, you got something to say?" "I do, actually." Daniel's voice was steady, controlled. "I've been watching you all afternoon, watching how you treat your wife. And I'm telling you, that's enough. Just having fun, cousin. Don't be so sensitive. Right, everyone? It's all in good fun." Nobody responded. The entire gathering had gone silent, 40 people holding their breath. Daniel turned to look at me, and in his eyes, I saw something I hadn't seen from anyone in this family in years. Respect, understanding, rage on my behalf. "It's not fun," Daniel said, turning back to Marcus. "It's cruel, it's abusive, and it stops now." "Abusive?" Marcus scoffed, but his bravado was cracking. "That's rich coming from you. Isn't that why Rachel left, because you couldn't control your temper?" "No," Daniel replied simply. "Rachel left because I was exactly like you are now, cruel, dismissive, so convinced of my own superiority that I couldn't see I was destroying the person I claimed to love. The difference is I recognized it, got help, changed. You're still standing here humiliating your wife for entertainment and expecting everyone to laugh along." Harold stood up. "Daniel, this is a family gathering. Perhaps this isn't the time." "When is the time, Uncle Harold?" Daniel asked, not breaking eye contact with Marcus. "When you did this to Aunt Margaret for 30 years, when you made her the punchline of every joke, when you dismissed her interests, her intelligence, her contributions. We all watched, we all learned, Marcus learned, and now he's doing the same thing to Sierra." Margaret's face had gone pale. Harold's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. "I've been watching this pattern my whole life," Daniel continued. "The men in this family treating their wives like props, like jokes, like accessories that aren't quite good enough. And everyone just goes along with it, laughs at the right moments, enables it. Well, I'm done being complicit." He looked around at the gathered family members. "How many of you have been uncomfortable today? How many of you have watched Marcus tear Sierra down and thought this isn't right? But you laughed anyway because that's what we do in this family. We go along to get along. We enable bullies because they're charming. We sacrifice women's dignity for men's egos." Catherine spoke up. "He's right. I've been watching this for years. The way Marcus talks about Sierra to Sierra. It's not okay." "Oh, please," Marcus said, but his voice was losing its power. "Catherine, you and James do the same thing. I've heard him joke about your shopping habits, your mother, your cooking." "The difference," James said quietly, "is that Catherine gives as good as she gets. And I know when to stop. You don't, Marcus. You never have." A younger cousin, barely 21, raised her hand tentatively. "I recorded some of what you were saying earlier, Marcus. About the IVF and stuff. I was going to post it, but it's really mean. Like, really mean. If someone talked about me that way, I'd be devastated." Daniel nodded at her, then looked back at Marcus. "Real men don't tear down their wives for entertainment. Real men don't need to make someone else smaller to feel big. Real men recognize the strength it takes to be a pediatric nurse, to comfort dying children, to support your partner through career changes, to endure 3 rounds of IVF with grace. He turned to me. Sierra, you deserve better than this. You deserve a partner who sees your worth, who respects your profession, who honors your struggles, who celebrates your achievements. You deserve someone who recognizes that being a pediatric nurse requires more strength, intelligence, and compassion than making money moving numbers on a screen ever will. Who the hell do you think you are? Marcus was angry now, his face red fists clenched. I'm someone who's been where you are, Daniel replied. I was you 5 years ago. Arrogant, cruel, convinced that my wife was lucky to have me despite all her flaws. I made her feel small because it made me feel big. I dismissed her dreams because they threatened mine. I turned her into a punchline because I couldn't handle her being a full person. He paused, letting the words sink in. And she left. Rachel left, and she was right to leave. It took me 2 years of therapy to understand what I'd done to her, to understand the patterns I'd learned from this family, to break the cycle. And even now, even with all that work, I can't undo the damage I caused. You're divorced because you're a loser, Marcus spat. Gave up a military career to become a social worker. What's that pay, 40 grand a year? 45, actually, Daniel said with a slight smile. And I sleep well at night. I help kids who've been through trauma. I make a difference. Can you say the same? What does moving money from one account to another actually contribute to the world? I provide for my family, Marcus said. You provide money, Daniel corrected. But what about emotional support? What about respect? What about love that doesn't come with conditions and criticism? He looked at me again. Sierra, I know we don't know each other well, but I've watched you today. You've handled this with more grace than anyone should have to. You don't have to keep handling it. You have options, you have worth. You have the right to be treated with dignity. That's when something inside me finally cracked. Or maybe it finally solidified. Years of trying to be good enough, of accepting less than I deserved, of making excuses for Marcus's behavior, all crystallized into a single moment of clarity. I stepped forward, my voice shaky but clear. He's right. Everyone turned to look at me. Marcus's expression shifted from anger to confusion. Daniel's right, I repeated, stronger now. I've spent 3 years, maybe more, trying to be good enough for you, Marcus. Losing weight, taking cooking classes, dimming my own light so yours could shine brighter. But nothing's ever enough, is it? Sierra, honey, you're being dramatic. No, I interrupted. For once, I'm being honest. You tell people I can't cook, but you've never eaten a meal I've made without criticizing it. You say I've let myself go, but I work 12-hour shifts saving children's lives. You mock my education, but I graduated with honors from one of the best nursing programs in the country. You're not joking, Marcus. You're just cruel. The gathering was absolutely silent now. Even the children had stopped playing, sensing the gravity of the moment. Do you know what I did last week? I asked. I saved a 4-year-old's life. She came in coding, and I was part of the team that brought her back. Her parents called me an angel. But I came home to you complaining that I'd forgotten to pick up your dry cleaning. That's not... Yesterday, I continued. You told your colleague on the phone that you were embarrassed to bring me to the company gala, that I wouldn't fit in with the other wives. I heard you, Marcus. I was in the next room. Catherine gasped softly. Daniel's expression had hardened further, if that was possible. The IVF, I said, and my voice broke slightly. How could you? That was private, sacred. My heart broke with every failed cycle, and you just used it as a punchline. Those weren't just medical procedures, Marcus. Those were our children who never got to be. And you turned them into party entertainment. Sierra, I didn't mean... You did, I said simply. You meant every word. You've meant every cruel comment, every public humiliation, every little dig designed to make me feel worthless. Well, I'm done. I'm done trying to earn love that should be freely given. I'm done being your punchline. I took a breath, looked around at the stunned faces. Margaret, thank you for having me in your home all these years. Catherine, thank you for your kindness, even when it was complicated. Daniel, thank you for saying what needed to be said. Then I looked at Marcus. I want a divorce. I'll be at Emma's apartment. You can contact me through a lawyer. Sierra, wait, you can't just. I can, I said. And I am. I know my worth now. It took me too long, but I finally see it. I'm a good person. I'm a skilled nurse. I'm a loyal friend. I'm a loving partner to someone who deserves that love. That someone isn't you. I picked up my purse from where I'd left it on a chair. Daniel, would you mind driving me to the train station? I can get to Brooklyn from there. I'll drive you all the way to Brooklyn, Daniel said immediately. This is ridiculous, Marcus said, his voice rising in panic. You're going to throw away 8 years over a few jokes, Sierra, come on. I'm sorry, okay, I was drunk, I was showing off. It didn't mean anything. That's the problem, I said. My pain means nothing to you. My dignity means nothing. My dreams, my work, my heart, they all mean nothing. I'm done meaning nothing. Harold tried to assert control. This is a family matter. It should be discussed privately. No, Margaret said suddenly, her voice quiet but firm. Everyone turned to stare at her. No, Harold. Not this time. Daniel's right. About all of it. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Sierra. For my part in this. For the comments, the comparisons, the coldness. I became so bitter I helped create this. I'm sorry. It was more than I'd ever expected from her. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Marcus made one last attempt. Sierra, please. Let's go home and talk about this. You're embarrassing yourself. No, Daniel said firmly. She's standing up for herself. You're the only one who should be embarrassed here. As I walked toward Daniel's car, I heard Marcus calling after me, his voice a mix of anger and desperation. But I didn't turn around. 40 people watched in stunned silence as I left the party, left my marriage, left 8 years of accepting less than I deserved. Daniel's car was a modest Honda Civic, clean and organized with a social work parking permit hanging from the mirror. As we pulled away from the estate, I could see people gathering around Marcus through the rear window, some comforting, others clearly arguing. The image grew smaller and smaller until we turned the corner, and it disappeared entirely. I'm sorry, Daniel said after a few minutes of silence, for not speaking up sooner. I arrived 2 hours before you noticed me, and I watched him belittle you at least 5 times before the main event. I should have said something earlier. Why didn't you? I asked, not accusingly, just curiously. Honestly, I was trying to figure out if I had the right. We don't know each other. You could have been okay with it, some couples joke like that. But then I saw your face when he mentioned the IVF, and I knew that wasn't joking. That was cruelty. We drove in comfortable silence for a while. The highway stretched ahead, taking me away from Connecticut, from Marcus, from 8 years of gradually accepting less and less. You mentioned your ex-wife, I said eventually. Rachel. Daniel nodded. High school sweethearts, married at 22, divorced at 30. I came back from my second deployment different. Angry, controlling, critical. I'd learned it from my family, sure, but the military amplified it. The need for control, for hierarchy, for being right. I turned it all on her. He paused at a traffic light, his hand steady on the wheel. She tried to tell me for years, begged me to go to counseling. But I thought therapy was for weak people, broken people. Turns out I was both weak and broken, just too proud to see it. She left on a Tuesday, came home from work, and she was gone. Just a note saying she couldn't disappear anymore, couldn't keep shrinking to fit the box I'd created for her. Did you try to get her back? For about 6 months, yeah. Grand gestures, promises, the whole 9 yards. But I hadn't done the work. I was just trying to manipulate her into returning. Finally, her lawyer sent a cease and desist. That's when I hit bottom and actually got help. The city skyline came into view, lights twinkling in the growing darkness. 2 years of therapy, he continued. Individual and group. Learned about narcissistic family patterns, emotional abuse, toxic masculinity. Learned that love isn't criticism, that partnership isn't competition, that respect isn't earned through fear. Changed careers because social work felt like penance and purpose combined. I help kids now who come from families like ours, teaching them different patterns before they're too set. Do you ever talk to Rachel? She sent me an email last year. She's remarried, has a baby girl, said she forgave me and wished me well. That email meant more to me than anything. Not because I wanted her back, but because it meant maybe I'd actually changed, actually done something right in acknowledging the wrong. We pulled up outside Emma's building in Park Slope, a brownstone with flowers in the window boxes. Before I got out, Daniel handed me a business card. My number's on there. I know you'll have lawyers and all that, but if you need someone who understands the family dynamics or just someone to remind you that you're making the right choice when it gets hard, call me. Thank you, I said, meaning it deeply. For speaking up, for driving me, for sharing your story. Thank you for being brave enough to leave, he replied. It took me years after Rachel left to understand that she'd given me a gift by refusing to accept less than she deserved. You're giving Marcus that same gift whether he realizes it or not. Emma must have been watching from the window, because she flew out the front door before I even reached the steps. My younger sister, 5 years my junior, but always fiercely protective, wrapped me in a hug that nearly knocked me over. I've been calling you all day, she said. I had this weird feeling. Sierra, what happened? Where's Marcus? I left him, I said, and the words felt surreal. At his family barbecue, in front of everyone, I left him. Emma pulled back to look at my face, then hugged me again tighter. Finally. Oh, thank God, finally. Come inside. Tom's making dinner. We'll figure everything out. Her apartment was warm and cluttered in the best way. Children's art on the refrigerator, shoes piled by the door, the smell of garlic and herbs from the kitchen. Tom, Emma's husband of 3 years, took one look at my face and immediately poured me a large glass of wine. Marcus, he asked simply. I nodded. Want me to go kick his ass? I know people. Despite everything, I laughed. Tom was a teddy bear of a man who ran a nonprofit for homeless veterans. The toughest thing he'd ever done was probably firmly asking someone to leave a fundraiser. Maybe later, I said. Right now, I just need to figure out what comes next. We sat around their kitchen table and I told them everything. Not just about today, but about the years leading up to it. The slow erosion of my confidence, the constant criticism disguised as jokes, the public humiliation I'd learned to endure. Emma cried. Tom's face got redder and redder. I'm calling Melissa, Emma said, referring to her best friend from law school who specialized in family law. She'll take your case pro bono if needed. Marcus is not going to steamroll you in this divorce. I don't want his money, I said. I just want out. You want what's fair, Tom corrected. You supported him through his career change. You contributed to that household. You endured abuse. You deserve fair compensation. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. 23 missed calls from Marcus. Texts ranging from anger to desperation. How could you embarrass me like that? This is insane, Sierra. Come home now. I'm sorry. Okay, I was drunk. It was just jokes. You're going to throw away our marriage over nothing. Please answer me. I love you. Doesn't that mean anything? Your sister put you up to this, didn't she? Fine, if this is what you want, but you'll regret it. Baby, please, we can work this out. There was also a voicemail from Margaret, surprisingly. Sierra, dear, I wanted to say again how sorry I am. You're a lovely person who deserved better from all of us. If you need anything during this transition, please don't hesitate to call. And thank you for the potato salad all these years. It really was the best thing at every gathering. Catherine had texted too. You're incredibly brave. I'm here if you need anything. Also, James wants you to know he's on your side. Marcus crossed every line today. Even Patricia's young daughter had somehow gotten my number and sent, You're awesome, Aunt Sierra. Uncle Marcus is mean. I'm glad you stood up to him. But the message that meant the most was from Daniel. Remember, you deserve respect, kindness, and real love. Don't let anyone, including Marcus or yourself, convince you otherwise. That first night at Emma's, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's shocked face, heard the silence of 40 people watching me walk away. But underneath the anxiety and uncertainty was something else. Relief. Like I'd been holding my breath for 3 years and could finally exhale. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of logistics and emotions. Melissa, Emma's lawyer friend, took my case immediately. She was a force of nature 5 feet tall in heels, but with the presence of someone twice her size. Emotional abuse is abuse, she said at our first meeting. Document everything. Every text, every voicemail, every email. We're going to make sure you're protected. Marcus cycled through every possible emotional manipulation. He showed up at Emma's building at 2 in the morning, shouting my name until Tom went down and threatened to call the police. He sent flowers to the hospital where I worked enormous arrangements that I donated to the pediatric ward. He had his mother call me, though Margaret surprisingly only offered support, and apologized again for her years of coldness. The most pathetic attempt was when he showed up at the hospital during my shift with a mariachi band, proclaiming his love in the pediatric ICU hallway. Security escorted him out, and my supervisor who'd heard about the situation banned him from the premises. A mariachi band. My colleague Janet laughed. In the PICU, what was he thinking? He wasn't, I replied. He was performing. Everything with Marcus is a performance. 2 weeks after the barbecue, Marcus finally agreed to meet with lawyers present. He walked into the conference room looking haggard, unshaven, clearly sleeping poorly. Part of me, the part that had loved him for 8 years, wanted to comfort him. But then he opened his mouth. "This is ridiculous, Sierra. One bad day and you're ready to throw away everything I've apologized 100 times. It wasn't one bad day, I said calmly. It was 3 years of bad days. The barbecue was just when I finally had enough. I've been going to therapy, he said quickly. Started last week. The therapist says I have issues with vulnerability and use humor as a defense mechanism. That's great, I said, meaning it. You should continue. For yourself, not for me. We can work this out. Couples counseling. I'll change. I'll be better. Melissa interjected. My client has made her position clear. We're here to discuss the division of assets and separation terms. The negotiation was surprisingly civil. Marcus tried to lowball me initially, suggesting I take my personal belongings and leave everything else. Melissa laughed, actually laughed, and presented documentation of my financial contributions during his career, change my household management, and the emotional distress I'd endured. We can go to court, she said simply. I have 40 witnesses to the emotional abuse at the barbecue alone. Your cousin Daniel has agreed to testify. Your sister-in-law Catherine has provided a written statement about the pattern of behavior. We can make this very public, very messy, and very expensive. Or we can settle fairly now. We settled. I got enough to start over comfortably, though nothing excessive. The townhouse would be sold proceeds split. Bailey would come with me since I'd been his primary caretaker anyway. The divorce would be finalized in 6 months. As we left the meeting, Marcus grabbed my arm gently. Sierra, please. Just tell me what I need to do. What would make this right? Go back in time, I said. Treat me with respect from the beginning. Value my career. Support my dreams. Share my pain instead of mocking it. Love me without conditions. Can you do that? He had no answer. Daniel and I met for coffee a month after the barbecue. He'd been checking in regularly, making sure I was okay, offering support without being overbearing. How's the family taking it? I asked. It's caused quite a ripple, he admitted. Margaret's been different. Quieter with Harold, but also stronger somehow. She actually told him to shut up during dinner last week when he started criticizing her sister. Catherine and James have been having some serious conversations about their own dynamics. Even Lauren called David out for dismissing her desire to go back to work. And Marcus? Living with his parents. Still in therapy, supposedly. James says he's different at work, less cocky, more subdued, whether it sticks or not. He shrugged. We became friends, Daniel and I. Nothing romantic, just two people who understood the particular dysfunction of that family, who'd both escaped in different ways. He introduced me to his therapy group for survivors of family trauma, where I found a community of people rebuilding their sense of self. 6 months later, the divorce was final. I'd moved into a small apartment in Queens, close enough to work, but far enough from my old life. Bailey loved the dog park nearby. I'd been promoted to charge nurse, a position I'd never pursued before, because Marcus said the extra responsibility wasn't worth the modest pay increase. My supervisor, Dr. Patricia Chen, called me into her office. Sierra, you've been exceptional these past months. Your dedication, your leadership during the recent crisis situations, your mentorship of new nurses. We'd like to recommend you for the Pediatric Nurse Practitioner Program, full scholarship through the hospital. I cried. Years of being told my career was a dead end, that I lacked ambition, that I was intellectually limited. And here was proof that none of it was true. Emma threw me a divorce party. It's like a birthday, she said. The birth of your new life. My old college friends came, the ones I'd gradually lost touch with during my marriage. Ashley flew in from Boston crying when she saw me. You look like yourself again, she said. I didn't realize how much you dimmed until I saw you bright again. Catherine came too surprisingly. We'd developed an unexpected friendship. She told me that she and James were in counseling working on their communication patterns. What happened at the barbecue woke us all up, she said. The way Daniel called out the family dynamics, the way you stood up for yourself. It made us all look at our own relationships differently. A year after leaving Marcus, I ran into him at a Starbucks near the hospital. He was in a suit, clearly coming from work, looking healthier than he had during the divorce proceedings. Sierra, he said, then stopped, seemingly unsure what to say. Marcus? You look good, happy. I am. He fidgeted with his coffee cup. I wanted to tell you, I know it doesn't matter now, but I'm still in therapy. Real therapy, not just crisis management. I'm learning about my family patterns, my narcissistic tendencies, the whole thing. Daniel was right. About all of it. I'm glad you're getting help, I said, and I meant it. I'm sorry, he said. Really sorry. Not the manipulative kind of sorry where I want something from you. Just sorry. You deserved better. You were an amazing wife and I was too broken to see it. Thank you for saying that. I heard about your promotion. Nurse Practitioner Program. That's incredible, Sierra. You're going to be amazing at it. We parted without drama, without promises to keep in touch. It was closure, real closure. Daniel texted me that night. Heard you ran into Marcus. You okay? More than okay, I replied. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just peace. That's freedom, he wrote back. Real freedom. He was right. For the first time in years, I was free. Free to pursue my dreams, free to value myself, free to expect respect and real love. The barbecue that had seemed like my lowest moment had actually been my liberation. I thought about all the women still sitting at family gatherings, enduring jokes that weren't funny, accepting criticism disguised as concern, shrinking themselves to fit into boxes too small for their spirits. I thought about Margaret, who'd endured it for 30 years before finally starting to push back. I thought about the younger cousins who'd witnessed what happened, who might now recognize these patterns before they solidified. Sometimes it takes someone else's voice to help you find your own. Daniel had been that voice for me, speaking the truth I'd been too beaten down to articulate. But ultimately, it was my choice to listen, to believe I deserved better, to walk away from what was comfortable, but crushing. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Hi, Sierra. This is Patricia's daughter, Lily, from the barbecue. I'm starting college next year, and after seeing what you did, I broke up with my boyfriend who was always joking about me being too ambitious for wanting to be a doctor. Thank you for showing me I don't have to accept that. You're my hero. I smiled, tears blurring my vision. If my painful journey helped even one young woman avoid years of accepting less than she deserved, then every moment of humiliation had been worth it. That night in my small apartment with Bailey curled at my feet, I felt wealthy in ways that had nothing to do with money. I had self-respect, genuine friendships, a career I was proud of, and a future full of possibility. The story I'm sharing with you today isn't unique. Thousands of people endure emotional abuse disguised as humor criticism, masquerading as concern, public humiliation presented as entertainment. We stay because we love them, because we hope they'll change, because we've been slowly conditioned to believe we deserve it, or because we're simply too exhausted from constantly defending our worth to fight anymore. But here's what I learned that day at the barbecue when Daniel spoke up and I finally found my voice. We all deserve partners who celebrate us, not tolerate us. We deserve love that builds us up rather than tears us down. We deserve respect for our choices, our careers, our bodies, our dreams. The journey from that devastating barbecue to where I am now 2 years later wasn't easy. There were nights I questioned my decision, moments when the familiarity of my old life seemed preferable to the uncertainty of starting over. But each day got a little easier. Each decision I made for myself rebuilt a piece of my confidence. Each person who showed me genuine respect reminded me what I'd been missing. Marcus, to his credit, has apparently continued with therapy. James told me he's different now, quieter, more thoughtful. He's dating someone age-appropriate who has her own successful career. I hope he's learned. I hope he never makes another woman feel the way he made me feel. But that's his journey now, not mine. Daniel and I remain friends. He's dating a fellow social worker, someone who understands his journey and appreciates his growth. He still checks in occasionally, and we sometimes laugh about how a family barbecue became the catalyst for so much change. The ripple effects continue. Margaret finally stood up to Harold after 30 years demanding couples counseling. Several younger family members have told me that witnessing what happened changed how they view relationships. Catherine started a women's professional support group, creating a space for women to discuss workplace and relationship challenges without judgment. As for me, I'm graduating from the nurse practitioner program next month. I'm dating someone new, a pediatric resident who respects my expertise and celebrates my achievements. He's never once made a joke at my expense, never dismissed my contributions, never made me feel like I need to shrink myself to make him comfortable. But more importantly, than any relationship, I've rebuilt my relationship with myself. I no longer apologize for taking up space, for having opinions, for pursuing my goals. I no longer accept criticism disguised as jokes, or allow anyone to make me the punchline of their story. That 4th of July barbecue was supposed to be just another family gathering where I endured humiliation with a smile. Instead, it became the day I reclaimed my life. It took a stranger's intervention to help me see what I'd been accepting, but it took my own courage to walk away. If you're watching this and recognizing your own relationship in my story, know this. You deserve better. It's not just jokes. It's not you being too sensitive. It's not normal or acceptable or something you need to endure. You have worth beyond measure, and anyone who truly loves you will see that worth and celebrate it, not diminish it for their own entertainment or ego. The day I walked away from that barbecue, 40 people watched in silence. But I wasn't walking away from something, I was walking toward something better. Toward respect, toward genuine love, toward a life where I'm the hero of my own story, not the punchline of someone else's. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if it made you think about your own relationships or the relationships of people you love, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed someone standing up to emotional abuse? Have you found the courage to leave a toxic situation? Your stories matter, and they might help someone else find their voice. Please like this video if it touched you, subscribe to hear more stories of triumph over adversity, and share it with anyone who might need to hear that they deserve better. Because we all do. We all deserve to be loved, respected, and celebrated for exactly who we are. Until next time, remember, you are worthy of real love, genuine respect, and a partner who sees your light and helps it shine brighter, not someone who tries to dim it. Thank you for being here, and may you always choose yourself when the world tries to convince you that you're not enough. You are more than enough. You always have been.